But without further ado, I'm going to pass over to this exquisite human being over here and ask, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hey, James.
Hello,
Hey.
Hannah. I'm taking it away. No, you're me.
Hi, I'm Hannah Montrose. I am 28. I am, first of all, a session musician, up-and-coming producer. I'm working on that too, and just a lover of all things musical. So that's me.
Do you know what? Like, it's a short introduction, but it's
Yeah.
quite pertinent, isn't it? Like, I mean, I like the love thing. Why do people pick music? It doesn't tend to be for a job thing. It's more of a love thing.
Yeah, a deep passion.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a passion-driven pursuit, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely,
definitely.
Before I go off tangent, I'll get told off. I'm going to run through some of the questions that we've kind of discussed, and for everyone listening and engaging, we try and make it conversational. And I'd like your questions, if and when they come, to be in that sort of manner. It's an open conversation as we can possibly create in this 5 o'clock evening slot.
Prime time.
There we go, prime time. So, Hannah.
Yes.
You studied at ICMP first, and then a different provider.
Yes.
What was the experience of, but maybe like the experience of each one separately, and then the differences and what you maybe found useful from each and challenging from each? That might be quite a good start.
So first, I studied at ICMP. I joined there when I was 18. It was, I have to say, one of the better experiences in education for music. It was very practical. You were literally on the kit learning from people like, Chuck Sabo, Darren Ashford, Lisa Tring, who was a personal hero of mine because she was female. So that was brilliant. When I studied at ICMP, I did get the full scholarship, drum scholarship. So with that, I was sponsored by Mapex Paste and also Drummer Magazine, where I had to write it was kind of like a diary of my experience there for the magazine. So that was pretty brilliant. I mean, it was weird going to a shop and seeing a magazine and knowing you're in that. It was pretty surreal. But in terms of ICMP, I would say it was probably the first time out of, my church background, where I would meet different people that played different things, and everybody was just there for one cause and just to kind of make it within the industry. And so that was my ICMP experience.
And that was a high diploma, wasn't it? Yeah, great.
That was a higher diploma. Yeah, back in 2010. So 10 years ago. Wow.
Crazy. That's a great. For those of you who don't like, so Hannah and I've known Hannah since she was a student at ICMP that first time, and you could bang drums pretty well there. Back then. But from ICMP, Hannah, you chose a different direction, which is, obviously it's important to kind of, explore these things. So where did you go from ICMP, just to
so
the academic thing?
After ICMP, obviously for about 4 years, it was just kind of out there trying to kind of make a career for myself within this industry. We'll go into some of the difficulties I kind of went through during that 4-year period. But then I got to a point where I was without work, and I was just like, I feel like I need to study some more. I feel like I need to really delve into this thing called music at a degree level. And so I did go and study at Westminster University under the leadership of Hussein Boone. If you don't know who Hussein Boone is, he is the guy that, writes and does the curriculum for Rock School. So
that's right. Yes, of course. Yeah.
And so was studying with him, and I was able to get a 2-1 in my degree. So that was, it was more different than ICMP because it was very much theory, very much academic. my friends can tell you I was up in the library sometimes 24 hours trying to get things. So it's a very different experience. Not as much practical as ICMP, but that it was very much a theory type of thing. Yeah.
And actually, quite interesting, leading on quite nicely. Well transitioned, Hannah. To the second, like, how did your course support you as an aspiring musician? Now, I guess maybe the practicality elements of ICMP, and actually, it's interesting to explore the academic stuff at Westminster. Like, what, if you can, you kind of talk through maybe how you felt each experience might have supported you in a way, or not.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll go with ICMP first, because with ICMP, it was more of, we're making you into a musician so you're ready to go out there. In ICMP, obviously, James, you would know, you would send me off to auditions. You say there's this going on, like, please
Totally.
go, and things like that. So in terms of molding me to be a musician, I would say with ICMP, they gave you all the skills in terms of being able to play along to track, being able to play along with people, giving you different skills. Not just, I took drums, but I had to also take keyboard lessons as well with Michael Martin. So
Love
it was,
Michael.
yeah, it was a great experience. And so just giving you skills and different bits so that you could go out there and you could go to auditions and you would be prepared. So that's kind of what I learned from ICMP. From Westminster, it was the theory side. So
Getcha.
even though I'd learned how to read in ICMP and I'd learned how to kind of chart and things like that, in Westminster, it was kind of taking all of that and putting it up to a degree level where you're talking about the science of music in most things. And so, yeah, that's kind of with Westminster, it was more of a being able to go, I don't know, to companies and talk music, being able to sit down with an engineer and know exactly how you want your drums to sound and things like that. So that was more Westminster.
Fair play. And
Yeah.
do you think, like, actually, the third question is, based on your experience, how important was it to study at HE level for your music career? And I guess you kind of touched on that already in the first. I mean, expand however you wish, but I'm also interested in do you think having or going through the process of achieving a degree, has that helped you with your career and your music? And if so, how? Because I guess my point is, sometimes there's a disconnect from, like, I'm studying an academic degree to actually kind of like what elements of that study experience and journey help you in your career.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Definitely. I mean, after ICMP, so with my journey after ICMP, thankfully enough, I quickly became one of the drummers for the Olympics. So there wasn't that much time in between. After ICMP, I started sessioning, doing a lot of studio work, a lot of function work. But in terms of going to the auditions, and this isn't anything on the school, but in terms of the industry that we have, I would go to auditions and it would be, you're a great player, you know what you're doing, but in terms of the visual, that played a huge part in why it ultimately took me about 10 years to score something where it was like, all right, you're the drummer, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things in there that kind of hindered me from kind of reaching the full potential that I knew that I had. And a lot of people that were around me were saying, you're going to make it, you're going to do it. But the opportunities just weren't coming in.
Yeah.
And so after I did the Olympics, which was great, we went into, I did a couple of things with the Olympic drummers, National TV Awards and all of those things. And I remember being in those situations and just little bits, little things that Chuck would teach me, little things that Darren would say. And in those situations, you're like, okay, I can use this in terms of, like, for example, with the Olympic drummers, it was more kind of marching band type of drumming. And so me coming from a gospel background, it's literally hat, snare, kick.
Yeah.
And so we groove, we improvise, but this, it was a bit different. So I remember hearing the things from Darren about flams, paradiddles, and, you know, technical things. I was doing the molar technique before I even knew what it was called. So
yeah, great.
so when it came to
You thought you were all over the Montrose technique, and you're like, hold on, wait.
when it came to, you know, someone coming in with the Olympics and saying, okay, we're going to do the molar technique, I knew it straight away. And so things like that prepared me for the industry. With Westminster, as I said, just the theoretical kind of side of things, knowing, okay, going for bar one, bar two, knowing how to write drum music down precisely. So that's a thing that I learned from there. So all of these things have helped me kind of have a career afterwards, but there has been some hard times.
I'm sure. Well, which I'm sure we'll kind of get into. Yeah, no, absolutely. I know there's some good questions coming through already. You know, to assure our lovely attendees, I'm certainly not skipping over them. I'm just going to kind of try and fit them in at the right time. So we're going to progress with the conversation.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Hannah. Really insightful, actually. What advice would you give students who are about to start a course? Were there any general things that you learned through your process? You thought, do you know, if I could talk to 18-year-old me, what would you kind of tell them?
Okay, 18-year-old Hannah. Wow. But the first thing I would say is believe in yourself. Believe that you can do literally anything. It doesn't matter what you look like, where you've come from. I'm not from London originally. I'm from a town outside of London. And so going into London to study was something that was petrifying to me, like, because it's this big place and I'm just little old me just trying to make it. But you have to believe in yourself, number one. Number two, I would say practice. If we're in a time where we have so much technology around us, and so practice. We have YouTube. Most of the things that I learned, even though some of it was from personal experiences, some of it was also from YouTube and just looking at drummers online, kind of imitating and just building on that to make my own sound. So I would say definitely practice, and coming off of that, make your own sound. Be true to who you are. Definitely.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Do not try and become somebody else. It's okay to get from somebody else and build on it or embellish it, but do not try to be somebody else. Be yourself, and that's fine.
Do you know what's really interesting is we talk a lot, I say we, ICMP, myself, the industry that looks after maybe artists, and we talk a lot about identity. And I think sometimes, it's a great point, because I think sometimes it's lost on the instrumentalists, the musicians, about how important it is to have your own voice, identity, musically, sonically. I often think that's overlooked. It's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, as a black woman, as a black queer woman in this industry, it's hard. I mean, we do not get the platforms that others do get as easily. The opportunities aren't there, first of all, and second of all, when we do kind of show what we have, it's kind of like sometimes people's backs are turned, if you get what I mean. The light isn't shining on us. But at the end of the day, throughout my whole career, I have seen some fantastic female black musicians who have kind of paved the way for me to come. So in terms of identity, and those people have always stayed true to who they are. They've never kind of wavered from it. They've always stayed true to it. So I try and do that myself always. So
fair play. Yeah. Great piece of, it's great advice. I think as well, I mean, I don't think we should shy away from talking about the timeline as well, because it's like this didn't happen overnight for you, did it? It's like it's a process, it's a growth, it takes time. I mean, actually, how did you feel about that were you aware of that when you first started kind of really pursuing drums and music as a career, or were you, if we can be honest, were you kind of like, oh, it's not happening, man, I'm worried? What was your kind of emotion around the length of time it was taking?
Okay, so I would say I started playing kind of professionally around 14 to 15. That's when
Gotcha.
I've got my first session gig, playing for a local gospel choir and things, and
Yeah.
started doing bits and bobs. And even from there, I could see that even though, so on my first gig, it was two drummers. It was me and somebody else.
Right.
And I could kind of see in terms of song choices, I could see in terms of kind of what they expected, if you got what I mean.
Totally.
That, okay, all right, if I could play, I'm playing just as hard, I'm playing just as tight, but I'm still not getting the kind of equality that I would like in terms of respect.
Yeah.
And so it started from there, where I was like, okay. And then as you know, I grew older and I started to educate myself more. I was like, okay, it's not just me, first of all. This is a bit of an issue. Well, not a bit of, it is an issue. It's a massive issue in the industry, where the visuals, as they would say, and in terms of opportunities, weren't there for me, if you get what I mean. Yeah. So it was kind of like trying to kind of figure out how I was going to go through this journey as a Black woman. So it was hard. It's been hard. And I mean, throughout my career, it's just been one experience over another, too many to even say. But one I will say quickly is, I
Definitely
remember
quick.
you,
Take your
yeah.
time, Hannah. I mean, I just want, this is important. It's really
Yeah.
important. Totally.
One story I will give of, I think, biggest time that it affected me, like the time that I was like, okay, I'm a Black woman and this is what I'm gonna experience. Was remember you sent me off for an audition with an artist,
Right.
and I remember going and playing everything, practicing at home and kind of preparing myself for it as I would do any other audition. And I get into the room. First of all, there's nobody there that looks like me, so I'm like, okay, we can. That's fine.
Yeah.
That doesn't really bother me. I'm here to do a job. So as I'm playing, they put on the first track. I played it totally fine. Put on the second track, everything's great. Before they put on the third track, they say to me, do you want to have a type of break or something? So I'm like, okay, yeah, we can have a break before we go. That's totally fine. I step out for a second and I come back in, and it was like they were all in a huddle kind of discussing. And so I was like, okay, that's fine. Play the third track. And in the third track, I think it's because I saw them discussing, I knew something was up straight away.
Mm-hmm.
And so after the audition, the A&R guy said to me, you know, I want to let you know that you did nothing wrong. And from when he said that, when he said you did nothing wrong, I was like, okay, I get it. That's kind of like a dog whistle for you haven't got it. So I was just like, okay. And he said to me, right now, to be honest, right now we're kind of looking for a Beatles type visual. And so, and then I was like, Beatles type, okay. I mean,
There's remember that Black member of Beatles? Oh no, sorry.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly that. So I left out of there absolutely deflated. I left out of there feeling like, okay, this is not gonna happen. This is not gonna happen. And I remember coming back to, you might not remember this, James, but I remember coming back to the school afterwards, and I said, yeah, I didn't tell you why I didn't get it, but I told you I didn't get it. And you were like, just keep going, Hans. Like, it will happen. It will happen. And lo and behold, 10 years later, 10 years later, it's happened. So,
and rightly so. You know, I knew it would, and I don't mean that arrogantly. It's not me like virtue signaling anything. It's nothing to do. It was just the quality and the attitude that you brought to things, Hannah. Like, I
Oh,
think people would be getting the impression now. I don't mean to be sycophantic at all, but you can tell if I'm sure anyone in this room, you're all they can't see you drum here, but they can feel how personable you are, and that came through as professional as well. And that is part of the reason. And I knew you could smash the drums like no one else. But that is a major part of the reason that I knew at some point it was going to happen, because those attributes were great and your drive was, I don't know, it was in abundance actually.
thank you.
Again, like I want to kind of center that on the importance of your attitude actually, because you did, we all overcome adversity. We'll go into the adversity that's placed on you as a black woman that is unfair and unequal and unjust. I would never have to face that. White female counterparts would never have to face that, although they face something different. But at the core of it, your professional attitude was always paramount and in abundance shining through. It really was. I'm just going to get back to these kind of questions that we kind of frameworked out first. You kind of hinted on this, but what important skills did you get by studying drums in an academic environment? And did you only study drums? I know you mentioned about keys at ICMP, but the Westminster thing, maybe just breaking away from the drum, like we mentioned before this, there were some academic elements like the academic writing and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, did that phase you? How did you feel about that? How did you overcome it? And has elements of that study, has that kind of leaked through into your professional world as well, in a way of developing, improving you as whatever? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm trying to get at there?
Okay, so I would say the biggest hurdle of studying at degree level, I
Yeah.
have to admit, was kind of the essays. I mean,
Yeah.
getting any type of musician to try and write 10,000 words of something it's a hard thing to do.
Not just musicians.
Yeah. It's a
Sorry, but you're
very
right.
hard thing. It's a very hard thing to do for creatives. And so that was one of the hurdles that I didn't, to be honest, I knew that I would be studying at a degree level, but I don't think I was as prepared for the level of how I would have to write. Being somebody that didn't know how to kind of articulate themselves, previously, before going to Westminster, it kind of taught me how I had to teach myself how to articulate. I have a fantastic big sister, Sinead, who kind of pounds it into me, in terms of being able to articulate yourself in a way that you'll be understood and you'll get your point across.
Yeah.
And so in that, I kind of, with the Westminster thing, that was kind of my thing to jump over the hurdles that were like essays. In terms of reading, for me, I've been learning to read forever. Since ICMP, I've been learning to read. And so having to absolutely focus on those things, it was a difficult thing. The ways I found to get over that was to read, practice reading, read books, listen to other people talking, in terms of having to articulate yourself. In terms of drumming wise, with Westminster, the hurdles were you're in a group of people with everybody's at different levels in terms of drumming, in terms of at ICMP we were put into groups, so everybody was pretty much in the same level.
Yeah, right.
You get what I mean? But with Westminster, it was literally everybody together, everybody's different, and being able to kind of maneuver through that, because I'm a church girl, so when it's time to play drums, it's hard, it's fast going, we're going at it.
Yeah.
But being controlled, that's kind of what I kind of learned through the Westminster experience, and that was the hurdle.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
So you got that level of control out of. That's really interesting. Yeah. Did it? I mean, I guess being able to overcome those hurdles and challenges, did that give you a confidence that you could take that into your professional world as well, your life, I guess. Do you know what I mean? Like, is that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I said, being able to control and listen and be in the moment, kind of with the drums, with your artist, or if you're in the studio, being able to just sit there. And I mean, coming from my background, where it's all about improvisation, it's all about feel, it's all about going with the mood, and you kind of have to still have that, but be controlled and be in the moment. And so it's something I'm still working on, because I like to feel. And I mean, on my latest gig that I did, it was about playing the track, being able to kind of merge into somebody else's identity, if you get what I
Oh,
mean.
that's
So,
interesting. Yeah, I guess
yeah.
because well, I work with a lot of artists, and that's not a thing that we often talk about. Is that actually sometimes you don't want the musicians to deviate, because
Mm-hmm.
it just can be quite off-putting for the artist, and
Yeah.
so that's quite cool that you brought that into your kind of playing as well. Then that
Yeah.
ability to kind of know, control, still get the feel, but focus and
Focus. Yeah,
yeah, like that.
definitely. Yeah.
Lovely stuff.
Yeah.
What tips? Actually, no. Actually, let's do this one. So, speaking to our up and coming musos, session musicians, what key skills do you think they should be developing now during their studies? And maybe key skills, not that you can talk about whilst they're studying if you wish, entirely up to you, but perhaps when they're kind of progressing into trying to find some more work and revenue streams, kind of what skills do you think were useful and probably still are for you, and therefore they should be thinking about developing?
Okay, so first skill I would say is learn about your instrument. Learn about your, because I'm a drummer, I'm going to talk drums,
Of course, yeah,
but
please do.
um, learn how to tune. Learn how to tune your drums. Learn how to get the sound that you want. And second thing I would say is use social media. That's something that I'm trying to learn how to do. Um,
How intriguing.
as a drummer, it's kind of hard to get, the video right, with the everything right. But even if you just kind of get out there and kind of take a few 10 seconds, it doesn't have to be that long, few shots, just to show people what you can do. That's what will eventually help you get out there,
Yeah,
and for people to know who you are. Networking is extremely important. In this industry, you need to know people, you need to be able to communicate with people, and you need to have a plan of where you want to go. So networking, talk to everybody. Nobody,
totally.
talk to everybody. I'm James, as you know, there's people that were in my year of ICMP, and you would never guess where they would be, and now they've
Sailing, man.
skyrocketed. And
Yeah,
so I would say talk to everybody, because you never know who's going to help you.
love that. It's so important, the relationship. I mean, I've been in this game on the other side for quite a while, and
Mm.
it's always kind of ebbs and flows down to the relationships you can create, manage, and grow.
Yeah.
Which is the same as network. So I guess it's just a, I guess, a softer way of saying networking, really. Because I think often you might agree or disagree, Hannah, but please expand. But I sometimes think when you, not you personally, when anyone talks about network, it can be quite cold. Like, you need to know this person, you need to, and actually,
It doesn't
I'm
need to be
sure.
like
No, it doesn't, does it?
it doesn't need to be like that.
No.
No. I mean, in terms of myself, the people that I kind of networked with were kind of people like me, mostly female drummers, who are female musicians. Second of all, musical directors and things. And
Yeah.
so, with networking with them, I would say it became more of, first of all, it started with a question,
Yeah.
and then from the question it went on to, what do you think of this, or what do you think of that? And from that, it was conversations going on about our current state. And so, and then it just turns into, oh, by the way, I have this going on, are you available? And it's like, yeah, I am. And then they bring you in. A person that did that for me personally was a lady called Nadine Lee. At the time, it was just, I would say it was in my last year of university,
Right.
and it was at a time where it was literally no work. For 2 years, I
Wow.
didn't step foot on a drum kit. And that was whilst I was studying. Whilst I was studying, I did hit a bout of a little bit of a depression where I just didn't really want to play. The only time I would play is when I had to play. And that was because I was so clouded by other people's opinions and, you know, disappointments and rejections.
Yeah.
And Nadine reached out to me, and she kind of gave me that helping hand. And so it's brilliant to have people around you. And that was just due to networking. I met her through somebody else. So it's one of those things where with networking, don't make it seem like, don't do it if you're only doing it for personal gain. I know personal gain must be, you know, you have to talk about personal gain, but make it be because you just want to kind of better yourself. At the same time, you do want to kind of reach out and have those connections with people. It's more than a music thing. It's about relationship, it's about friendship, it's about all of those things. So
Absolutely,
definitely have those things in mind.
yeah. I think that's, I mean, beautiful. It's a perfect example, that exactly that. And yeah, I think quite often, particularly kind of developing musicians and artists and writers, that sort of scenario, they forget that your common denominator kind of always, and generally, because we always get idiots, but let's, you know, not focus too much on idiots at the moment, but
yeah,
is the passion of music, right? Because it's very rare that you'll speak to someone who works in music and they've got into music to make a lot of money, or to, you know, to do any other thing than just be around and work with and become a
I would
musician.
say if they're in the music industry to make a lot of money, then they've probably chose the wrong industry.
No. You can make a healthy living. Let's like,
Yeah, you
but you're
can.
dead.
You can do great.
Yeah,
But
but
it takes a while.
yeah,
I mean, it takes a while. So
it totally does. Now,
yeah.
you just moving on to the next one, Hannah. Sorry, but
Mhm.
you kind of mentioned that you had some challenging times studying, maybe particularly at Westminster in terms of the academic stuff. But even like you say studying, but even some of the kind of rejections, as you were saying,
Yeah.
from auditions. Have you got any kind of tips for students that might be finding their studies challenging, or
Hmm.
similar sort of scenarios? Can you talk a bit around that, perhaps, Hannah?
Yeah. Okay. So as I mentioned before, whilst I was studying at Westminster, I did go through a time of depression.
Yeah.
To the point where, you know, my mum, my family, they were constantly just having to bombard me with prayers and, you know, positive things. One thing that got me through it is that I had to center myself, and I had to realize what I was there for. I wasn't there to make people happy. I was there to make myself happy. I was there to educate myself. I was there to gain the knowledge that I needed to hit the goals that I wanted to hit. And so throughout all of that, I had to I had to just center myself and focus. And as a person who's a drummer and who's quite energetic, um, it was hard to focus myself, and that's why I think I fell so deep into that level of misery. But once I centered myself and I found my tribe, I don't think there was anything or anybody that could tell me
Oh,
any different than you know, that I'm gonna make it at some point. And so I do have to thank my tribe for that. So in terms of your question, I would say center yourself, find your tribe. Sometimes you have to actually take the whole music and drumming thing out of it and just center yourself as a person, as a human being. And then from there, once you get that confidence, you'll skyrocket.
what a beautiful piece of advice. Can I ask you, Hannah, how did that centering yourself look for you then? How
Yeah.
did that, was it yeah, go on. Sorry, talk through that
So
if you can.
centering myself I would go to, so for example, there was a time where I was feeling really low, and I just went online and I said, I just need to go and hear music. I need to go and hear a concert. I need to get inspiration. And thankfully enough, I know that Divinity came and did something with you guys the other week. Divinity was playing at the Jazz Cafe with Nikki Gillespie, my all-time favorite drummer.
Wow.
Nikki Gillespie played for Beyonce
Yep.
back in the day. So I went to go and see them. I came back inspired. I got on a drum kit and I just looked at my kit and I said, you know what we're going to do is take it from the very beginning. I put on a metronome and I just played, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I kept on going and I must have done it for about 20 minutes to half an hour. Just 1, 2, 3,
Wow.
4, 1. And it was so funny because I came out of the room sweating and in tears. It was like I had a literal breakthrough. And so I gained some inspiration and I also went and played it out. And I was able to navigate myself throughout that time. I worked on my paradiddles, I worked on my flams. I was just doing everything I could, playing wise, to get me out of there. So, yeah.
I love that. That's incredible. You took it back to the core again.
Yeah, I had to take it back to the core.
Yeah.
I had to.
Do you think that realigned your re-awareness of your passion? Like you were doing it for your passion for yourself?
It was kind of like a rebirth. I will tell you that. It was like a rebirth. It was like it was like I was musically dying at that point because with studying at degree level, you do not get to play as much as you normally do. And sometimes you get sucked into that. So I had to go back to basics and literally 1, 2, 3, 4 out of depression. So yeah.
I thought a fantastic piece of. I mean, again, like you can extrapolate that, can't you, to any of our probably audience here? It's like although your toolkit was your drums, there are other toolkits to be able to kind of use to recenter. And as you mentioned, the tribe thing, I think that's a great thing. I'm guessing that's a supportive team of people around you, right?
My network,
yeah, exactly. You get you and you get and
yeah,
fantastic. I think that's a really solid.
As I was saying, you could, even though I'm a drummer, I mean, if you're a songwriter, get your pen and paper. If you're a singer, sometimes what you might sing might not make no sense, but just belt it out. If you're a guitarist, just get on there and just play, and you'll be able to reach some sort of happiness for yourself. So that's my
great piece of advice. That's great piece of advice. Thank you, Hannah. I was just conscious of time and I knew this happened. I'm just chatting away. But sorry. When and how did you get your first gig as a session musician? Now you mentioned like you got your first gig quite young, so perhaps do a little kind of pre-education, then maybe post-education in terms of like your first gig. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, so first of all, I do have to mention I do come from a Pentecostal Christian background, and I was thankfully enough. I was thankful to be in a church where it was known for its music. Up to this day, some of the musicians that played in my church are known as some of the biggest session musicians in the country. And so I was able to get that, I was able to see and kind of have that influence into my playing. And so from my church connections, also with my ICMP connections, I was able to kind of use that within my first kind of session. My first session outside of the church realm or the gospel realm was actually through ICMP, which is kind of odd. So
I didn't know that, by the way. Before anyone says, "Oh, you set that one up," I didn't know that.
No, you didn't know that. But basically, there was a seminar, a workshop that Troy Andrews Faces did, and I was in the. I wasn't even supposed to be there, but I was like, if Justin Timberlake's MD is coming in here, then I need to be there. And so basically, I was sitting at the back, and he said, "Oh, is there any drummer coming around? Is there any drummer around just to come and jam?" And I don't know why, because I normally don't. But I was like, "Me, I'm here, I'm here." And I went up there. We jammed for about a good 10 minutes. And after that, we got into contact, and he actually gave me information for somebody Lorenzo, and Lorenzo actually took me out and he got me on my first session with a guy called Ben Smith, and we did a couple of kind of Louisianan kind of songs. And so yeah, that was my first kind of session outside of the church world. Yeah.
Fair play. Another more evidence, right? Getting involved, getting your network going, exercising it,
Yeah, I
being
mean,
good.
and I'm not that type of person to do it, James. Like normally I would be like, let me see what other drummers here, like, but I was just like me, and yeah, through that I was able to kind of build on it. So that was my first session.
Can I ask
Yeah.
you a question, Hannah? And
Uh-huh.
feel free to bash this back. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm acutely, obviously, Troy's a black guy as well. Do you think the fact that there was a black musician up and doing a workshop masterclass,
Mm-hmm.
visible again, there's visibility there, association. Do you think that's part of it?
Well, probably, yeah, definitely. I mean, in terms of Troy, first of all, because before he came to ICMP, I wasn't too familiar with his work.
Yeah.
But then I read up on him and I saw Justin Timberlake on there. I saw Madonna. I was like, okay, so this is a guy where this is the place that I have to be at. And so I went there, and I mean, just to see a black guy up there with his bass, it was amazing. It reminded me, that same experience reminded me of when I was 17 and my sister took me to go and watch the I Am Sasha Fierce tour with Beyonce. And for me, I believe that was the moment where I decided, okay, I can actually make a career out of this drumming thing. You have women of color on stage with the biggest artists on the planet, and they're playing, and they're not just, because I mean, on TV, when you see a female drummer, normally it's mimed and it's, you know, it's more about the visual than actually playing. And so to see them play, I was just like, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is what I have to do. And so to see, then go and meet Troy, and see him kind of build his career for himself and still be on top, even though he wasn't doing, you know, the Justin anymore, the Madonna anymore.
Yeah.
He was still just this captivating character. And to see a black man up there doing it, it was amazing, because we do not get the chances that our other counterparts get. So for him to come in, I was absolutely flabbergasted by it. Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm so pleased you put your hand up.
Yeah.
You know?
You know what? If I didn't put my hand up for that, I honestly don't think that half of the things I've done would be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Action. And then leading on to the next one. I mean, I kind of want to ask this question, but don't, because if the answer isn't what I expect, I'll be gutted. But how was it to play the Brit Awards with Lizzo, and how did you get that gig?
Okay, so first of all, before I talk about anything, I have to shout out Nadine, I have to shout out Vanessa, Sonia, Jay, Mish, because before we did the Brits, we actually did the live lounge with her.
Oh,
and
did you? I
so,
didn't know that.
Yeah, we did the live lounge with her. So over 2 days, we were working with her. I have to shout them out because during that time we had to carry each other. I mean, it was exciting, number one, but number two, it was absolutely terrifying, because we're about to, you know, go on stage with probably one of the biggest artists in the world right now.
Easily.
And so we knew the mission, and so we had to complete it. So in terms of the Lizzo gig, how was it playing the Brits with her? It was fantastic. First of all, she's a genius. I mean, a lot of people might just know her for kind of, you know, the dancing and the twerking, but she knows music. Yeah, she knows music. She plays the flute, as a lot of people know, and just being in rehearsals with her, you could see where she was like, "Nah, I'm gonna take out that D flat. Okay, we'll put in it," and you're like, "Hold on a second, like this woman is a genius." So it was very exciting. It was petrifying at the same time, because at the Brits it was just me. So at the Brits it was just me, so it was petrifying at first. but I mean, the crowd was awesome. And I mean, it kind of, at that time, because I wasn't playing drums as much, but at that time, it kind of it was another reigniting moment for me.
Yeah.
How I got it, a good friend of mine, Matthew Brown, who
Oh,
actually,
Matty.
yeah, who grew up in
Yeah.
the same church as me. So he just gave me a call on the Wednesday and said, "Do you want to do Lizzo?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Huh?"
Let me think.
I was like, "What?" So I remember, because I work at a music center, I called up my boss and I was like, "Dave, please, please, I need to do this." Because prior to that, at the end of last year, I'd seen her on the Grammys, and I remember being outside in my car, just looking up at the stars and saying, "I need to work with this lady. I don't know how it's gonna happen. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but I need to be on stage with that lady."
Yeah.
And for a month, not even a month later, for that to happen, it was it was like, oh wow, there's a bigger power than anything just working out things for me. So yeah, so that's how
Brilliant.
I got it. Yeah.
Amazing. Fully deserved as well. I'm just conscious of time, Hannah. Actually,
Yeah.
some questions coming in from the gang watching.
Yeah.
I just want to get this one in. What advice would you give to students from a non-white background wanting to enter the music industry, particularly as a session musician? There is always going to be a lot to unpack here, but I mean,
Yeah.
I've noticed some questions come in as well, which are completely pertinent around this.
Yeah.
So let's loop it in with one of them. Are there any obstacles as a black female drummer in the industry? Is that cool to put them together? So I guess general advice for the non-white musicians wanting to make it, and the specific obstacles as a black female drummer.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I must address what's happening in the world
Please
today.
do.
I believe in the reasons for the protest. Obviously, I believe in the reason in the reasons for the protest. I feel like it's a culmination of people's lived experiences here in the UK. I feel like a lot of people feel like what happened in America. You know, we don't really need to talk about it here, but actually it's right here, and you see it in every sort of industry here in the UK. As a black female, I haven't been shielded from that at all. As I gave an example earlier of going to auditions, and they want the Beatles look, or with certain people, it was finding a way to kind of sexualize you, to kind of go with the visual, if you get what I mean. And so there has been a ton of hurdles. What I would say to black musicians who are trying to make it, first thing I have to say is look after each other. We need to look after each other more. The second thing I would say is, I'm sure that your parents have told you, people around you have told you, but we do have to work harder because of, unfortunately, because of how society is. We're seeing a change right now, which is brilliant. I was saying to my mum the other day, for the first time, I feel like there's hope. Do you get what I mean? There's hope. And so I would say, number one, look after each other. Number two, keep going, keep your foot on the gas pedal, keep going. There is hope out there. And I would also say we do have to work as hard, but remember, we're in music. Music is supposed to be fun. That's number one. Music is supposed to be from your heart. So that's what I would offer. Just be confident in yourself. Know that you are worthy. You are worthy. This doesn't matter. You are worthy to do what you have to do. And so I will say a shout out to all the protesters out there trying to make a change. We're seeing people come together, not just from the black community, from every type of community. I heard somebody say it's everybody against racists, and so we want to keep it that way. So
Totally.
that's
Well,
my
so
advice.
eloquent. No, thank you, Anna. And I guess I mean, let's go forward. What advice do you have to white people? And actually, I'm going to link that, and it's pertinent. There's no point skirting around things. That what do you think this is a yes question, but what can organisations do to support more diversity and inclusivity? And that's including, I guess, because you know, as you said, you're a queer woman, so the LGBTQ
Hmm.
plus community.
Yeah.
But what are there certain things that you would like to see? You would advise, not to give us the answers, of course, but just
Yeah.
kind of from your lived experience.
From my lived experience, I would say we will not get anywhere if there's no opportunity. And opportunities for Black, for queer people are dwindling. They are dwindling. And
Yeah.
so I would say opportunity is number one. Give us the opportunity. Because the thing is, let's be honest, when we have been given the opportunities, we show out, and we show out pretty well when we are given the opportunities. For industries, for white people in particular, individuals, I would say educate yourselves. Educate yourselves. If you look around you and everybody's looking the same, there's something wrong. There's something wrong there. I would also say be loving and be kind always. Be kind always. That's something I try to live by just on the daily, because you never know. You just never know who will make it and who, you never
Yeah.
know who somebody is at certain points. I've been in rooms with people, especially, here's a good story at the Brits. When I was at the Brits, there was this man talking to me and I didn't know who he was. Like, I was just like, okay, I'll talk to him. He's a nice guy, talking about music and things. And afterwards, I remember bumping into a friend, and he walked by, and nodded his head, and I was like, "Hey, I need to go and find out it was Rod Stewart." And I was like, "Okay, that's who Rod
Yes,
Stewart
Hannah.
is."
Yes, Hannah.
So, you never know who you're gonna be around. So I would always say, be kind. If you don't know something, it doesn't mean that it's evil. It doesn't mean that it's against anything that you may believe. Educate yourselves. And there's a lot of us out here. There's a lot of people that are willing to give that education to people. So that's what I would say to my white counterparts. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. I also think, I don't know, I mean,
Mhm.
I'm commenting, but I by definition have not have a lived experience like you have, and I can never understand, but I hope to kind of further my understanding. But like, it just seems like there's a pause missing where empathy should live. Before you say something, pause.
Yeah.
Try to at least put yourself in the other person's frame of position, and then comment.
Yeah.
It's so, I don't know, it's just strange how that empathy thing seems to be
It's gone.
dissolving. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Well, not weird,
And
but
I mean, there are people that have it, and we're trying to bring it back.
mm,
I mean, even when I see the people out there in their thousands
yeah,
fighting for just a human right,
yeah. Oh my God, I mean,
as
that's
simple as that, a human right. And seeing that, as I said, there's hope.
yeah,
There's hope for that, but we've got a long way to go, and hopefully these big industries, right now we're in COVID, and so right now, I mean, everybody is saying something, but what I'm really looking forward to is when things do get back to normal, when the opportunities for artists to perform and things do come up, will we see a change? And I think that's yet to see. So
yeah.
I'm looking forward, I'm hopeful that
I like that.
hopefully
Yeah,
me,
no,
my sisters, my Black sisters, my queer sisters, you'll see a lot more of us out
yeah.
there.
This question is a really tough one. It's not even a
Mhm.
question; it's a statement. Brilliant drummer. Nadine,
Oh,
I
thank you.
agree.
Whoever that was from, thank you.
Nadine, well done. Yeah, you're right.
Hey! Yeah.
Um, this one, I guess, actually linking, Hannah, to our last kind of little question there. Well, not little question; it's a huge issue. But are you anticipating any specific changes in your musical career post the Black Lives Matter movement?
Hmm. Okay, so yeah, as I was saying, I hope that the opportunities are out there for us to gain. Also, I believe it's time to, even though we want the opportunities and we need them, please let them come in for us. Also, work on your own thing. Nadine herself, who's on here, fantastic project I work with her on, and we perform that live. But learn how to do your own thing as well. I'm learning how to produce music at the moment, and so when the gig doesn't come, create the gig for yourself.
Oh,
And so that's one bit of advice I would give on that. Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you, Hannah. Forgive me, everyone, if I'm skipping through them. I'm not. Again, please don't take it as not giving cadence or kudos to the question. Actually, I think we kind of touched on this, Hannah, but just you mentioned you had issues with auditions regarding visuals. And Rob asked, what did you mean? I think we've answered that one, Rob.
Yeah.
And actually, I think you commented, yes.
You want me to I can quickly do it.
Yeah, please do. Yeah,
with the whole visual thing, a lot of companies, for example, they want a certain look. If you look on your TVs, I can go to far as back as far as Top of the Pops, where, you know, it's about the look. And even though it should be about the music, most of the time with these companies, it's about how it looks. I would say when we did the Lizzo thing, I believe it was the first time that all black female band, all black female musicians were seen on such a high platform. And even though we got so much love from that, there were a couple of people that just passed through that, and it was kind of like, this is something to be celebrated, like your own. And it, unfortunately, it did take an American to come and do it over here. But hopefully after this, we can get some more visuals that are diverse in the music industry. Yeah.
Totally. I cannot agree more. Thank you, Hannah. That's just someone saying thank you for sharing this, Hannah. I completely agree with that. Thank you for sharing all your experiences and your openness. Yeah. And another one. Oh, from Nadine. Love your hands.
Oh, thanks, Nads.
Love that. Rob. Oh, Rob, this is a good question. Okay. As a drummer starting the diploma in September, this is Rob is going to start ICMP as a diploma. What's your advice on joining bands, auditioning, looking for session work, etc.? Because he wants to get as involved as much as possible. However, you can only practice and play with so many people a week. Do you recommend being a yes man woman and saying yes to everything that comes your way, or should you be more picky? That's quite interesting, Rob. Yeah,
that is a good one.
It's a good one. Yeah, thank you,
That
Rob.
was a good one, because whilst I was at ICMP, I have to admit, I was a bit picky, and I wish I wasn't as picky as I was. And so my advice would be to, when you get there, be open to things and follow your gut on things. So if something doesn't, sit well with you, probably ain't a good idea for you to go there. If there's something in your gut saying, you know what, maybe take a pass on this one, then I would say, follow your gut on it. But when you first joined that, I know that with ICMP, you guys have opportunity pages and things. I've gone for auditions through them. I've used them. You have resources there that should help you get in line with the session work and things. Also, as I said before, network with a clean heart. That's what I would say.
I'm just picking little sound bites from you. I'm going to steal most of these for my own work. No, I'll credit you. It's fine. Cheers, Hannah. Thank you. Thanks, Rob. Good question. Nadine wants to know when your album's coming out.
When the album's coming So I was actually I'm working on music at the moment. Just quickly, growing up, as you know, I come from a very heavily influenced gospel background, but also because of that, we weren't particularly allowed to listen to certain secular music. So the music that we listened to was musicals. So Roger and Hammerstein, Stephen Sondheim, those are the things that literally blew my mind in terms of string arrangements and melodies and things. So I would love to bring out something that combined the two together. So I'm working on it. Hopefully it'll come out soon.
Let me know if you want any assistance on pushing that, promoting or anything like that.
Yeah, I know the guy to come to.
Come to me.
Exactly, James.
Nice one. Actually, this is from our very own Terry. I wanted to ask Hannah for a top tips for future artists, musos, when they graduate. Were your expectations the same now as to when you were graduating? That's interesting.
Oh, that is. Okay, so when I was graduating, first of all, graduation day for me was like exhaling. It was like, okay, I've got it now. I've walked across the stage. I've got my degree, or I had my higher diploma, and it was kind of looking at the world with bright eyes, like I'm ready to go. And you get in there, and sometimes it's not as easy as that. I mean, for me, it wasn't, as you guys have heard. But I would say after graduating, it was reality that, okay, you're an adult now.
Yeah.
You have to be able to, number one, share your gift. Also, because you're an adult, you have responsibilities. And so I would say, in terms of going and pursuing a career in music, I would say, number one, keep the passion, but also be, face reality.
Yeah.
In certain things. Right now, I'm a homeowner. I have a car. I help run a business. I work at a music center. That's my normal. That's my normal thing. So that kind of pays the bills as well. I work at a place called Hearts Music Center, where we kind of have nearly 200 kids that we lay the foundation for before their musical journeys. And so I take that very seriously as well. So there are other opportunities other than playing and things. There are opportunities to be mentors. There is opportunities to be therapists. The music industry, I would say, is about 50% playing and 50% loads of things.
Yeah.
So I would say be open to opportunities outside of just playing.
That's where I think the term portfolio career is often bandied around quite a lot, and sometimes I think it has a little bit of a kind of a, yeah, I don't know, sometimes a negative connotation, or like, what the hell is that type thing. But it's true that it's revenue streams. Where are your revenue streams built from?
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I work at the centre. I've also done theatre. Before I did a play called This House. It was actually standing in for Nadine at the time, and that was a whole different experience. I've recently, well, a couple of years ago, I went and shot a film with Academy Award winning composer Stephen Warbeck.
Oh,
And so,
wow.
yeah, so he's been a good help as well. So, you never, it's not just sessioning. It's not just sessioning, and it's not just playing. Sometimes you're going to have to go out there and do film, do theatre, and do other things.
Beautiful. Hannah, we've got Yolanda. Yolanda, is definitely a champion. You're amazing, which is just a fact. And also, Yolanda, I like it. You're pitching to it. Will I be singing on this album? She's asking you, Hannah.
Well, do you know what? Yolanda is a fantastic singer. Of course. Anybody that wants to be on it, come. Let's all get.
I love it.
Let's all get together. But Yolanda, definitely, come on, girl.
Mate, maracas for me. I'm on it. Honestly. That's what I got.
Yeah.
Oh, Hannah, that's been beautiful. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful for you to share your insight, your experiences, your tips, and generally be open enough to kind of talk about your journey so far. And from me, ICMP, as Terry, my colleague, has kind of said, you're firmly part of our family. Always welcome. You're lovely.
So much. I do. Thank you so much. Thank you to the ICMP family. I believe that my career wouldn't be where it is without that foundation. And so thank you to you guys. I do have to shout out just very quickly some of my sisters, Ishara Andrews. I have to shout out Vanessa Dominique. I have to shout out Alicia Hughes, Nadine Lee. These are females that are here in this country, and we're ready to work. So I do have to shout them out. But thank you so much for this opportunity.
Love that. Hannah, email me those names, because we need to educate ourselves on up and coming black musicians, so particularly black female musicians. So if we can do anything to kind of give a platform, we'll do
Definitely.
so.
Definitely.
I love you to bits, you know that. Thank you so much.
You're my guy. You've been my guy for 10 years. Come on, man.
I'll keep being the guy. Thank you, Hannah. Absolute diamond. Cheers.
Cheers.